Good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar on recent updates to the Clean Energy Communities Program. A few notes before we get started. All participants are on mute and cameras are turned off. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. We'll address them at the conclusion of the presentation. If you have a municipality-specific question, please reach out offline after the presentation and I'll be happy to speak with you. This presentation is being recorded. The slide deck and a link to the recording will be sent to everyone who registered. The slide deck being used for this presentation is not just informative, but also a great tool to navigate the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities website. The deck contains a plethora of hyperlinks, all of which are live and will direct you to the correct web page. Please feel free to share out both resources. Lastly, a special thanks to our colleague at Genesee Finger Lakes, Emily Royce, for running the slide deck for tonight's webinar. Before we jump into discussing the PON updates, some quick introductions. Next slide, please. My name is Rob Richardson, and I am the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator in the Genesee Finger Lakes region. I have a bachelor's from the University of Hartford in Politics and Government, and after spending roughly 9 years in youth development with the YMCA of Greater Rochester, I went back to school to pursue a master's degree in public administration from the College of Brockport. Going back to school played a critical role in how I ended up in my current position. After completing my degree, I was hired as the Assistant City Manager in Canandaigua, New York. As Assistant City Manager, I was tasked with the city's environmental initiatives, and it quickly became my favorite part of the job. During my tenure, I guided the city to both a Clean Energy Communities designation as well as a Climate Smart Community Bronze certification, and my love for doing these programs ultimately led me to my current role. I truly enjoy helping communities not only find ways to save money, but also reduce their environmental impact and achieve their clean energy and sustainability goals. In my spare time, I coach soccer. I've been the boys varsity soccer assistant at Harley-Allendale, Columbia for the last 17 years. Introduce yourself.
A planner here at Genesee Finger Lakes region. Council. I have a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture from SUNY Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse and a master's of urban affairs from Boston University. I've worked as a planner for the state of Massachusetts, working primarily on transportation projects, and I've also worked for King County, Washington, working on the county comprehensive planning efforts. I've also worked for several consulting firms and nonprofits in various planning and landscape architecture capacities. I particularly enjoy transportation and comprehensive planning, as well as community engagement. I've assisted communities in writing parking management plans, long-range plans, as well as performance measures for comprehensive plans. I've conducted many community surveys and outreach events as well. In these roles, as well as my current one here at GFL, I get to work with municipalities to help them solve complex challenges and help them find funding opportunities. And I love working with our communities here in this region. While the appetite for sustainability and green energy work varies across our region, our goal is to find sustainability champions and support them and their communities in finding the best path forward in the Clean Energy Communities Program, all while keeping in mind community goals and current capacity. In my spare time, I enjoy hiking and playing disc golf and exploring the Finger Lakes region. So thank you for tuning in today and learning more about the changes in the CEC program. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rob, who is going to discuss some of the preliminary changes. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jenny. As you likely know, the initial Clean Energy Communities program kicked off in 2016 with the goal of helping municipalities across New York State save money on energy expenditures while reducing their carbon footprint. To become a designated clean energy community, municipalities needed to complete 4 high-impact action items and submit them to NYSERDA for approval. The program included 10 high-impact action items communities could choose from, with early actors earning grant funding once receiving their CEC designation. Next slide, please. Participation in the Clean Energy Communities program offered several benefits to communities. In addition to high-impact actions designed to help lower their utility bills in homes and municipal buildings, the program offered access to grant funding to help communities complete clean energy projects. The program guidelines offered municipalities the ability to build resilient, sustainable communities while demonstrating leadership in clean, sustainable municipal operations. To help communities find success, each region was designated with a Clean Energy Communities Coordinator to guide municipalities through the program. These coordinators were put in place to provide personalized support and a variety of services based on the needs of each community they work with. Next slide, please. This map illustrates how successful the first iteration of the CEC program was. In total, 600 communities engaged the program statewide, with over half of them receiving a Clean Energy Communities designation. As you can see, the program was well received. Despite the almost 1,900 high-impact action items completed in the first 5 years of the program, however, NYSERDA recognized there was a greater opportunity to help municipalities across the state transition towards clean energy. Next slide, please. Building on the success of the initial program, NYSERDA launched the second iteration of the Clean Energy Communities program on January 26, 2021. The updated program offered municipalities the ability to tailor their participation to the needs and resources of the community while maximizing the potential economic opportunities and energy savings the program hopes to achieve. Next slide, please. Known as the Leadership Round, the upgraded program offered new high-impact action items, updates to existing items, a points-based model where high-impact actions with the largest overall impact received the most points, and an improved funding structure to encourage long-term sustained participation. In total, the state allocated $17 million to this round to help incentivize communities. The funding available in each region is substantial and encourages municipalities to complete projects they might not have considered previously. The best part about the funding available through the CEC program is that it's match-free. All of the funding available in the leadership round, however, is first come, first served. Next slide, please. The increased offerings and improved framework were extremely well received. As this slide shows, the introduction of the leadership round had a tremendous impact on the Clean Energy Communities initiative in its first 10 months. There were substantial increases in new participating communities, designated communities, and completed high-impact actions. In addition to these successes, many municipalities have enacted New York Stretch Code or successfully completed community campaigns to access action grant funding. More impressively, several regions have already seen communities surpass the 3,000, 4,000, and/or 5,000 point threshold to earn points-based grants. Next slide, please. The implementation of the leadership round strengthened and expanded the overall impact of the CEC program. This graphic quantifies just how drastic that impact was. In the first 10 months of the leadership round, 111 new communities began participating in the Clean Energy Communities program, representing an almost 16% increase statewide. The 66 newly designated communities statewide represent a 17% increase, and the 672 high-impact actions completed represents a whopping 26% increase. As a cherry on top, 2021 was a record-breaking year for the CEC program. The 758 high-impact action items completed statewide during the calendar year smashed the previous record of 700 set in 2017. In total, 30% of all high-impact action items ever completed in the history of the program have been completed in the last 12 months. While these advances represent incredible accomplishments, NYSERDA remained open and committed to finding new ways to improve the program and increase access to the top levels of grant funding for communities of all sizes. Next slide, please. Utilizing feedback from its state team of Clean Energy Communities coordinators, NYSERDA was able to identify and implement program adjustments to increase participation and create greater opportunities for municipalities statewide. On November 18, 2021, NYSERDA released an updated PON for the leadership round that included several significant changes to the CEC program. These include adjustments and clarifications to simplify program guidelines, amended requirements and expanded eligibility for high-impact actions to increase opportunities for community participation, and a new high-impact action to create equitable access to grant funding for all communities in the program. Today, we'll discuss these updates and how they impact the program moving forward. Next slide, please. One of the most critical changes to the program guidelines is the expansion of eligibility to include municipal utility and rural cooperative electric communities in New York State. While these communities were able to participate in the program and complete high impact actions, they were not eligible to receive grant funding because they did not pay into the system's benefit charge on their municipal electric bills. Allowing these communities to fully participate in the program will help expand participation. Another change that will increase participation is the expanded eligibility on completion dates for clean energy upgrades and clean heating and cooling demo projects. Prior to the PON update, these projects needed to be substantially completed after January 1st, 2020. That cutoff date has been pushed back to August 1st, 2016, making more recently completed projects eligible for submission. NYSERDA updated the building upgrades pre-approved project type in the grant application workbook as well. It now allows energy upgrades to be completed if identified in an ASHRAE level 2 or 3 audit, provided that the audit was prepared no more than 5 years before the date of the application. In addition, you can now use grant funding for clean heating and cooling screenings for buildings when performed by NYSERDA selected contractors. Next slide, please. NYSERDA has taken steps to simplify the grant submission process. In addition to clarifying that a letter of commitment must be submitted with every application, glitches in the application itself have been corrected to improve the user experience. There have been updates and clarifications made on the submission requirements for several high-impact actions, which will be covered in the next few slides. However, the addition of a new high-impact action item, county-hosted trainings, is a game changer. It not only adds something specifically for counties to increase their participation, but it also creates a viable path allowing counties access to the top funding levels available in the Clean Energy Communities Program. Next slide, please. This slide shows the updated menu of high impact actions available to municipalities, including the addition of county-hosted trainings. There are several high impact actions that were not impacted by the PON update, including the Unified Solar Permit, Code Enforcement Training, Open CPACE Financing, Benchmarking and Advanced Reporting, Climate Smart Community Certification. The high impact actions that have been updated are indicated in italics. I will now turn it over to Jenny to discuss the specific changes to the high impact actions in the program. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Rob. Now I'm going to discuss the changes made to individual high impact actions. First, 100% renewable electricity high impact action. Moving forward, the renewable energy credits, or RECs, generated by state-owned resources, including New York Power Authority-owned facilities, do not qualify for submission. The update also clarifies that RECs must be produced in the same year as the electricity consumption. The clean energy upgrades is one of the high-impact action items that, with substantial changes that could help many municipalities statewide. When the leadership round began, only projects substantially completed after January 1st of 2020 could be submitted for credit in the CEC program. That date has now been pushed back to August 1st of 2016, creating a larger window for completed projects. This is critical because it allows more projects to be eligible for submission. The updates also removed wood pellet installations as an eligible clean energy upgrade. The clean heating and cooling demo was a new high impact action item added to the leadership round. It has been updated to incentivize more communities to consider this action and expand project eligibility. Prior to the PON update, the clean heating and cooling demo was worth 500 points. Now it's worth 700 points. And any community who completed this action will be automatically awarded 200 points retroactively. Like clean energy upgrades, the date has also been pushed back to August 1st, 2016, in order to allow more communities to be eligible for points. The Clean Fleets High Impact Action was also updated to clarify which vehicles are CEC eligible. The vehicles must be new and purchased. They cannot be used or leased. Vehicles must also be either plug-in hybrid or battery electric to earn points. Next slide, please. The LED streetlight conversion high impact action is a very popular one in many regions across the state. While there hasn't really been any updates to any of the protocol or submission requirements, counties are now eligible for this action. Prior to the PON update, only cities, towns, and villages could earn credit for this high impact action. However, if you are a county that has already converted streetlights or considering it, please reach out to us and we can get you credit in the points that you deserve for this high impact action. The community choice aggregation, opt-out community distributed generation, high impact action was also updated to clarify requirements and allow communities to enroll eligible assisted program participants as an alternative form of compliance. The New York Stretch Energy Code, one of the new high impact action items for the leadership round, offers additional grant funding for communities who fully enact New York Stretch prior to December 31st of 2021. That date has been pushed forward to June 30th of 2022. The first 37 large communities statewide to adopt New York Stretch Code will receive an action grant of $50,000, while the first 79 small to medium communities will receive an action grant of $5,000. The PON update also added new requirements that the municipality must file with New York State Department of State in accordance to Energy Law 11109. Next slide, please. The PON update also included a brand new high impact action, county hosted trainings. This high impact action, along with the ability to submit LED streetlight projects, now gives counties a viable path towards the top grant money in our program. Much like code enforcement training, these will be offered free of charge, with NYSERDA providing both the materials and the trainer. Counties are responsible for hosting, handling logistics, publicizing and promoting, and tracking attendance, all of which we can help support you here at GFL. There are 5 different offerings worth 300 points each, providing a potential of 1,500 points. Overview of the Model Solar Energy Law, overview of Model Battery Energy Storage System Law, Clean Energy and Your Comprehensive Plan, Battery Energy Storage for First Responders, and Solar PV Permitting and Inspecting. These trainings can be held individually, in a series, or as multi-day events. Next slide, please. These trainings must be coordinated with your Clean Energy Communities coordinator, either Rob or myself, and have at least 4 weeks of promotional lead time. While these trainings can be held in person or virtually, there are attendance thresholds that must be met to earn CEC credit. An elected official, municipal staff member, or member of an official municipal board or committee from at least 35% of the municipalities in the county must attend the training. If the 35% threshold cannot be met in one offering, it can be accomplished over several offerings of that one training. These trainings can also benefit attendees beyond earning municipal credit in the CEC program. The trainings covering Model Solar Energy Law, Model Battery Energy Storage System Law, and Clean Energy in Your Comprehensive Plans are eligible for CEUs for planning or zoning board members with municipal approval. The trainings covering battery energy storage for first responders and solar PV permitting and inspecting can help building inspectors and code enforcement officers accrue their required in-service hours. Next slide, please. Community campaigns is a new high impact action that was added to the leadership round of the Clean Energy Communities program. Each of the 4 campaigns, community solar, clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency, electric vehicles and demand response, were all amended with the PON update. Moving forward, CDG subscriptions related to the applying jurisdiction's municipal electric accounts are not eligible to be counted as a customer in the community solar campaign. Any community solar provider a municipality decides to work with must be listed in the New York State Power to Choose Distributed Energy Resources list, which is shown on this slide. The number of action grants available for this campaign was also adjusted. There are currently 4 awards of $15,000 available to large communities and 15 awards of $5,000 available to small to medium-sized communities. I want to remind you that the additional grant funding for community campaigns is offered on a first-come, first-served basis. You can always receive high-impact action points for completion of any of these campaigns. Next slide, please. One of the primary changes to the electric vehicle community campaigns is the clarification that in order to qualify, vehicles must be new and purchased. Leased and used EVs are not eligible for CEC credit. The PON update did, however, make completing this action more achievable. When the leadership round began, large communities needed 25 vehicles purchased to complete the campaign, while small to medium communities needed 10. Now, with the PON updates, large communities only need 10 EV purchases, and small communities only need 5 EVs purchased. The number of action grants available for this campaign was also adjusted. There are currently 5 awards of $15,000 available to large communities and 8 awards of $5,000 for small to medium communities. Next slide, please. The high impact action has several updates to encourage and incentivize communities to facilitate this clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency campaigns. When the leadership round launched, successful completion of this campaign earned communities 200 points. With the PON update, successful completion of this campaign is worth 500 points. Any community who has completed this high impact action prior to November 18th of 2021, when the PON updates were released, will be awarded 300 points retroactively. Like electric vehicles, NYSERDA has also reduced the number of required participants to make completing this community campaign more achievable. When the leadership round began, large communities needed 25 participants with 10 installing clean heating and cooling technologies to complete the campaign. Now, they only need 10 participants with 6 installations. Small to medium communities needed 10 participants with 5 installations, and now, with the updates, they only need 5 participants with 3 installations. The number of action grants available for this campaign has also been adjusted. There are currently 15 awards of $15,000 available to large communities who successfully complete this campaign, and 33 awards of $5,000 available to small and medium communities. Next slide, please. And finally, the demand response campaign changes. Moving forward, local governments must develop partnerships with New York Independent System Operator or Utility Demand Response Program providers. Participants may be residents where demand response programs accept residential customers. Commercial and industrial customers and other eligible entities may also be the participants, depending on the demand response program available in your utility territory. Enrollment of the applying jurisdiction's municipal buildings into a demand response program are not eligible to be counted as a customer as part of this community campaign. The number of action grants available for this campaign was also adjusted. There are currently 2 awards of $15,000 available to large communities who successfully complete this campaign, and 6 awards of $5,000 available to small to medium-sized communities who complete this campaign. If you have any questions about the updates or the high impact actions, please reach out or drop your questions in the chat box and we will get to them at the end of our session. I'm now going to turn it back over to Rob to finish this out. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jenny. Great job presenting that information. We've covered the remaining availability for action grants, and this slide illustrates the availability of remaining points-based grants. Whether your community is considered small to medium and competing for regional awards, or a large community competing for awards at the state level, there is still a tremendous opportunity for all municipalities to engage the program and earn match-free funding. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the introduction of the leadership round in January of 2021 led to a record-breaking year for the Clean Energy Communities program. In the 10 months that followed, the number of participating communities, designated communities, and completed high-impact actions grew substantially. Additionally, the 758 high-impact action items completed in 2021 represent a tremendous progress, not just for participating communities, but also towards the goals codified in the Climate Act of 2019. Changes made to the Clean Energy Communities PON, released November 18th, are designed to increase participation and create greater opportunities for all communities in New York State. Adjustments to high-impact actions, along with the addition of county-hosted trainings, should help the momentum carry from 2021 into future years. Now that all communities are eligible to earn grant funding, the program has created equitable access to funding for all municipalities. Most importantly, it's not too late to get started. As seen on the previous slide, most of the points-based grants are still available. Virtually every community still has the chance to access the top levels of funding. Because these grants are first come, first served, however, the sooner you get started, the better. Next slide, please. This slide provides links to several resources to help your community get started. These include the program website, videos of municipalities implementing CEC actions or discussing their experience implementing CEC, the PON guidance document, high impact action item overviews by available point totals, a link to all the high impact action item toolkits, and additional information on the grant funding available in the leadership round. There is also a link to determine if your community qualifies as disadvantaged, the CEC High Impact Action Submission Portal, the Climate Smart Communities Program website, and a link to the CEC Community Scorecards. All these hyperlinks are live and will take you to the correct page. Next slide, please. Perhaps your biggest resources, however, are me and Jenny. If we can stress one thing, it's that we're here to help. We're genuinely invested in the success not just of this program, but of the communities that we work with. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or need help getting started. And with that, we will take questions.